Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So, I have been playing Starfield quite a lot the last few days during the early access period, and now that the game has gone into full release, I thought it would probably be a good time to share 10 tips that are easy to miss early on in the game, but will really help you out. So let's jump into this. Okay, yeah, so I've been having a lot of fun with Starfield over the last few days, really enjoying exploring the subtle systems, but there are a huge amount of systems and mechanics in this game, and some points that are really easy to miss, especially early on when there is a huge amount to learn about a game of this scale. So, 10 things that are helpful and easy to miss. Okay, tip number 1 relates to your personal scanner. So scanning is a really big mechanic in Starfield. You're going to be doing it in space, you're going to be scanning stuff on the ground a lot, and there is a lot more functionality to the scanner than initially might meet the eye. So you can see across the bottom of the screen there's a load of button indicators to tell you press this button, it will do thing A, press this button, it'll do thing B, like open photo mode and stuff. Obviously, you can basically just use the scanner to scan minerals, you can use it to scan animals and plants as well to gain data on a planet. It will also help you find nearby locations within a reasonable range anyway. It can help you find a path to your destination if you have a quest selected, and it can do a whole bunch of other things. For example, if you have a location that is visible in the distance to your scanner that you have travelled to before, you can use the scanner to fast travel straight back to it. You can also open photo mode much more quickly than faffing around with menus from the scanner. You can use it to fast travel when you're in spaceships as well, and it has a whole load of different contextual abilities and mechanics attached to it that might be easily overlooked, so I would strongly recommend that basically every time you break out your scanner, which is going to be a lot, just take a quick look around and keep an eye at the bottom of the screen and see what little tips and techniques you can find to use your scanner in unexpected ways, because there are a lot of mechanics hidden in that thing, and it is hugely practical. So, moving on quite naturally from the scanner, point number 2 relates to mining. So, the scanner you use a lot to find minerals to mine. You'll use your cutter to head over there and use that laser cutter to dig out resource nodes from the ground. It's not the most efficient way to gather resources, generally speaking, but you'll still be doing it while you're exploring anyway, and you can somewhat speed the process up. So when you pull your cutter up, you can see in the center of the screen you've got a unique crosshair. It's kind of a triangle with 3 arms coming off of it. If you press the aim down sights button, that is right click on a mouse or I believe left trigger on a controller, then you'll see on the arms the sort of illuminated ends start to close in towards the center, which is basically charging up your cutter and making it more effective. It's more effective as a weapon if you happen to use it that way. Not that it'll ever be particularly effective, but anyway. But when you're mining, it means you can extract minerals much more quickly. So you can have a look at how slow it is initially here, whereas if you're fully charged, it is considerably faster. And even if you're not fully charged and you haven't got the thing held down all the time, just holding it down whilst you are mining anyway means your rate of progress accelerates during the course of mining, so it's still about twice as fast to start off with there anyway. So yeah, right click or aim down sights when mining in order to extract minerals much more quickly. Very handy. So with all this stuff you're picking up, you might want to know where you can store it, and one good place to do that is your ship's cargo hold. So as you can imagine, there is limited storage space in the pockets of your spacesuit, and you may well need to lug a large number of looted gear or resources around either with you or back to the nearest town in order to sell it off and make credits. But you're going to need somewhere to store that, and as you can imagine, your ship's cargo hold has considerably more capacity than the pockets of your spacesuit. So, where is it? Well, there's a couple of ways you can access this thing. Firstly, you can head into the cockpit of your spaceship, and on a panel somewhere on the wall in there, in the case of your starter ship, it's here on the left, you can simply activate that. It will open up your ship's cargo hold, and you can move stuff into it or out of it. Now, storage here is not unlimited, but obviously it is much higher than you can carry around on your person. The other way you can access this, if you are not within reach of this panel, is to open up your main menu, go to the ship menu, and you'll see an option across the bottom somewhere that tells you that you can open the cargo hold. So doing that takes you to the same place. Now through this menu, you've actually got a bit of an increased range, so you can be a little bit away from your ship and still send resources or any other items you happen to have picked up back to your ship's cargo hold. That range is not unlimited though, and you will fairly quickly get outside of it, so it's just kind of handy if you don't want to go through the business of loading back into your ship in order to deposit your stuff. But it is quite helpful if you are in the vicinity of your ship as well. So another useful point, if you want to store something and keep it, but not use it for either crafting resources or later sell it or whatever, maybe it's a keepsake or something you're quite proud to have earned, most ships have a captain's locker in them, and in there you can store things separately from your main cargo hold. That will make them easy to find if you want to keep a particular item or keepsake or something you are saving for later, for example. So you need to watch out for this little gold panel that tends to have access to that little storage space as well. So, with all this adventuring in the subtle systems, you're inevitably picking up an absolute ton of stuff, and before too long, you will almost certainly end up over-encumbered. So, that will limit you from being able to fast travel, and constrain you to a very long, very slow walk back to your ship, and possibly even back to town in order to shed some of this loot. So you're probably going to need to drop something at some point, and what do you choose? Well, in all likelihood, you want to pick the heaviest object with the lowest value, and to make life a little bit easier in determining that, you can head into your inventory, and down at the bottom you will see a button that allows you to sort by various categorizations. Specifically, the most useful here will be sort either by weight or by value, so you can figure out what's worth the least, rapidly figure out what weighs the most of that, and then choose what to drop based on that. And hopefully you won't have to walk several kilometers back to your ship carrying all of those guns that you have picked up off the various pirates that you were recently massacring. Okay, so if you don't want to drop everything on the ground when you're out exploring, what can you do to increase your capacity? Well, one of the simplest things you can do is turn around and talk to a companion, assuming you have one with you. If you do, you can go into their dialogue tree and you'll see an option to trade items with them, and you can offload excess resources, weapons, armor, whatever it might be, into their inventory, and they will carry some of it for you. It's not unlimited, but it does effectively increase the amount of stuff you can loot on your travels. At this point, it's kind of a 3-in-1, as there are a couple of other things attached to this trade menu that are worth knowing about. So, your allies, your companions, they will help you out in combat, but you might want to up the damage they put out in order to deal with bigger threats, for example. So one of the ways you can do that is to hand a weapon over to them and equip that onto them. So Sarah here is qualified with lasers, but her basic weapon is a laser pistol. If I want to up that damage output, I can hand her an Equinox laser rifle, for example. And if I go down to the bottom, you'll see there is a button there that tells you what you need to press in order to equip that onto your companion. So hit that, and they will use that weapon over their basic one. There is a caveat here, which is that they will need ammunition for any weapon that is not their basic one. However, all is not lost, because actually all you need to give them is one single round. This is a thing that is carried over from Fallout 4, but if you hand a single item of ammo over there, one bullet, one laser cartridge, whatever, they will have sufficient ammo and will be able to use the weapon that you have given to them. If you don't, they'll default back to their basic weapon, which they may switch between anyway depending on the circumstances, but it's useful to know, and you can definitely hand that off and up your companion's damage output in that way. The same technique also applies if you want to change their outfit. For example, I can hand Sarah a hat here, press the equip button, and she will wear it. For some weird reason, it is showing my character model rather than the companion one. Presuming this is a bug, and hopefully something Bethesda will be addressing, but nonetheless, when we hop back out, you can see that she is in fact now wearing the outfit that I wanted her to wear. So there we go. Tip number 6, you've made it all the way back to town after your adventures. You're carrying absolutely loads of really valuable gear that you want to sell off, but oh dear, you have cleaned out all of the vendors, they have no money left, and they cannot afford to buy this stuff from you. What are you going to do? Well, you've got a couple of options, and they're really quite easy, and they're basically the same thing. Find a chair, find a bench, or find a bed, and either sit and wait or sleep and wait for 24 hours, and the vendors' cash supplies will completely restock. You can head back over to them, and you can start selling whatever you've got. Now, bear in mind, there are occasional time-sensitive quests out there, not very many, but it's good to keep an eye on that, so make sure you don't cause problems for yourself. But early on, at the very least, that won't be an issue, so get selling, in short. So, moving away from inventory management for a bit, there are a number of other things to keep an eye out for and useful techniques to know about during the course of your adventures. So, number 7, Magazines. So players of previous Bethesda games will be familiar with finding books, magazines, bobbleheads, that sort of thing that give you permanent stat boosts. These are featured in Starfield as well, in this case magazines that look something like this. There's a range of them. You'll find them on tables, in lockers, all sorts of things like that, scattered throughout the game world. And when you pick them up, they give you a variety of different permanent stat boosts. And of course you can sell them afterwards and still keep the boost, or you can chuck them in a locker if you like to keep these things like I do. So there you go. Very helpful to keep an eye out for those things. They are spread all over the settled system, so keep an eye out while you're looting. So, tip number 8 is a handy little combat tip that the game does not really explain to you, and that is that there is a discrete cover system built into the game. So this is kind of an outgrowth of the cover system that was built into Fallout 4. Yeah, there was one. But it works basically the same way, but is way more effective and efficient. So, in short, if you move up to some object that you can use for cover, like, say, a railing or something to that effect, as you approach it, you'll see your character dips their gun. That basically means you are close enough to activate the cover mechanic. So move up to an object, your character's gun dips. You don't necessarily need to be crouched for this. It works on walls and around corners, things like that, doorways, that sort of thing. Once the gun dips, you're in cover. Bear in mind your shoulder might be sticking out and you can still be shot if that is the case. But the wall will hopefully soak up a few more bullets, so that should help you out. And then when you press the aim down sights button, so right click on a mouse, left bumper I believe on a controller, you should hop out of cover and be able to aim at whatever you want to shoot, and then just release to drop back into cover. Obviously not a foolproof system, kind of like it would be in reality I suppose, and you can get shot if parts of your body are sticking out, but that does help you to increase your survivability quite considerably, and the game doesn't really explain that this system is there. But then neither did Fallout 4, so good to know about. So tip number 9 has to do with lockpicking, and we're getting a little bit more complicated here. So, as you take the security skill, you'll be able to pick more and more complex locks. You also get a second feature that is not really explained, and that is the lockpicking menu, when you activate a digipick, will start to give you hints as to whether or not you're on the right path. So, you see the lock has a number of concentric rings. You need to take the digipicks on the right, rotate them round, and make sure they fit. Basically like blocks in a puzzle. Now, once you start to upgrade your security skill, if you have a digipick that will actually fit that particular ring, it turns blue. If it will fit in subsequent rings further down the line that you need to unlock after the first one, those will also turn blue, whereas if it only works in the first ring, for example, then that will go blue, whereas the ones inside will stay white. Now, this system is not completely foolproof, because sometimes things will work in multiple positions, but you can still use them in the wrong position if that's the case. This is kind of a puzzle minigame, so you do need to pay a bit more attention and don't 100% rely on the game hinting that you're in the right place. But if the key fits the lock, it will tell you, provided you have increased your security skill. So it does make it a little bit easier to see if you're on the right path, because some of these puzzles do get a little bit more complex as you go further in, and you end up with extraneous pick options and things like that. So having a few hints are definitely helpful there. So last but not least, tip number 10. I should say this is one I've not had the occasion to try out myself just yet, but I've heard from numerous people that this is a really good thing to keep an eye out for. So, dropping from a number of different enemies in a lot of potential locations is this datapad that says Secret Outposts. Now, if you happen to pick that up, do check when you're looting bodies, then it will tell you to travel to a particular planet wherein there's a secret outpost that is being raided, and this happens to kick off a really, really good early game side quest that will allow you to get some good gear, a good spacesuit, some good armor, and also a new spaceship that is also apparently quite good. And I have to say, second-hand information, not had the occasion to try this just yet myself, but I have heard good things from people I do know who have tried it, so definitely worth pursuing this particular side quest. It can drop in a number of different places. It'll be on the body of a fallen enemy somewhere, but I have found it so far twice, once in a random outpost I went and checked out. But also, if you're following the main story, the second mission, the old neighborhood, takes you to a few different locations in the Sol system. Not going to spoil it any further than that, but when you are in a fight, you might defeat an enemy and it might drop from their body. So make sure you're checking your fallen foes and looting their bodies, because there is a good possibility that this datapad will drop and set you off on a pretty cool quest. From what I understand, it's fairly challenging combat-wise, especially early on in the game, but the rewards are well worth it if you make your way through. So, there we go. 10 useful early game Starfield tips that I do hope will help smooth the rails for you and will help improve your experience in the early part of the game. I do hope you folks have been enjoying it as much as I have, and I hope you found this video useful and informative. If you did, please do consider dropping subs and likes. Loads more Starfield content coming in the near future. And make sure you hit that notification bell as well so you don't miss any of it. Do join us for live streams as well. We are, of course, playing Starfield. We are playing Fallout 76 as always as well, so I do hope to see you on the streams as well. And if you get a chance, check out social media links, merch store, and channel memberships down below as well. The support in that direction is humongously helpful and hugely appreciated, so massive thanks for everybody who has already done that. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.